Some generals fought with brute force, others outwitted their enemies with cold precision, but a rare few achieved something almost unimaginable. They almost never lost a single battle. That's right, not one, or maybe just one. In the entire span of military history, a handful of commanders walked away from dozens, sometimes hundreds, of campaigns victorious. Their streaks weren't flawless, but they were close enough to inspire fear, respect, and legend. Today, we're diving into the lives and campaigns of the most feared and nearly undefeated generals in history. Some you know, others you've never heard of. But every one of them reshaped the world, and stood tall on battlefield after battlefield. Let's start with the one who redefined conquest itself. Alexander the Great, born in 356 BC, crowned at 20. By 30, he ruled an empire stretching from Greece to Egypt to India. But what made Alexander truly legendary wasn't just what he conquered. It was how he fought. He faced larger armies, unfamiliar terrain, and impossible odds, and crushed them all. Let's go to Gaugamela, 331 BC. Alexander's 47,000 men faced a Persian force more than twice that size. The Persians had war chariots, elite cavalry, the home field advantage. Alexander didn't flinch. Using brilliant flanking maneuvers and a direct strike at the Persian center, he sent King Darius III fleeing, shattering the heart of the Persian Empire. And he kept winning. Issus, the Hydaspes River, Tyre and more. He led from the front, took wounds, crossed deserts, scaled mountains, and never lost a battle. His death came from illness, not combat, and that's the only reason his perfect record ended. Next, a name feared across 2 continents. Khalid ibn al-Walid, the sword of Allah. He fought over 100 battles across Arabia, Persia, and Byzantium, and never suffered a single defeat. At the Battle of Yarmouk, 636 AD, his 40,000 Muslim warriors faced a Byzantine force more than twice their size. The fighting raged for 6 days in the scorching heat. Khalid reorganized units on the fly, stabilized collapsing lines, and delivered devastating cavalry charges at just the right moment. By the end, the Byzantines were crushed. The battle ended centuries of Roman rule in the Levant, and Khalid walked away undefeated again. Even after being dismissed by the Caliph not for failure but for growing too popular, Khalid's record stood. Now let's talk about a man who tore through Asia like a storm. Genghis Khan, the founder of the Mongol Empire. He conquered more land than anyone in history. And his battlefield record, nearly spotless. Now here's where we clarify. Technically, Genghis Khan may have suffered minor setbacks, raids gone wrong, early skirmishes, but in every major engagement, every decisive campaign, he won. Period. He built an army that moved faster, struck harder, and fought smarter than anyone in the medieval world. At war with the Khwarezmian Empire, his generals split into multiple forces, coordinated across deserts and mountains, and took cities in synchronized assaults. And it wasn't just strength, it was psychology. Genghis used feigned retreats, surprise winter attacks, and terror tactics to paralyze enemies before the first arrow flew. While the record isn't 100% perfect, his ability to strategically outmatch and outlast every major opponent he faced earns him a spot on this list. Now for one of the most hardcore battlefield legends you've never heard of, Jan Žižka, the blind general of Bohemia. In the early 1400s, Europe was torn by religious conflict. Žižka, once a common soldier, rose to lead the Hussite rebels, poorly armed peasants, against crusader armies from the Holy Roman Empire. Žižka turned farm tools into weapons, wagons into tanks, and outwitted every knight and noble sent to crush him. He invented the war wagon, an armored rolling platform loaded with archers and gunners, and used it to break cavalry charges again and again. And get this, he fought and won multiple battles while completely blind. He died of illness, undefeated, and asked his skin be made into a war drum so he could lead his troops even in death. That's not just legendary, that's next level. Now to the east, Nader Shah of Persia. He didn't start as a king, he started as a common soldier. But he rose through grit, brains, and raw battlefield power. By the mid-1700s, he'd defeated the Ottoman Empire, crushed Central Asian Khanates, and even invaded Mughal India, capturing Delhi and walking away with one of the largest war chests in history. At the Battle of Karnal, he faced an enemy more than twice his size. He feinted, encircled, and annihilated them in just 6 hours. Now, for the caveat, there were minor rebellions and ambushes he struggled to suppress later in his reign. So while not strictly undefeated, His major campaigns and open field battles were always won, often against overwhelming odds. Nader Shah was feared like no other, until his own men turned on him. But on the battlefield, he never blinked. And finally, Vo Nguyen Giap, the Vietnamese general who took on two superpowers and beat them both. In 1954, the French believed their stronghold at Dien Bien Phu was untouchable. Giap had other ideas. He dragged artillery through jungle terrain, encircled the valley, and cut off all French supplies. After weeks of bombardment, the French surrendered. It was a geopolitical earthquake. Then came the Americans. Giap understood something few others did. Wars aren't just won by firepower, they're won by will. Through guerrilla tactics, attrition, and a deep understanding of terrain and time, he bled the world's most powerful military until it chose to leave. He didn't win every engagement, but in strategic terms he never lost a war. And he walked away having defeated two Western empires in a single lifetime. So what do these nearly undefeated generals have in common? Different cultures, different centuries, different tactics, but they all had something few commanders ever achieve. Unshakable will, battlefield genius, and a cold, calculating understanding of war. Some led empires, others led farmers, but all of them walked into battle knowing exactly what it would take to win. And they got it done. So who impressed you the most? Alexander's global reach, Žižka's blind battlefield leadership, Giap's long game, Genghis Khan's strategic terror? Let us know in the comments. And if we missed a name you think belongs on this list, bring it. We're ready. If you love deep-cut military history, stories of strategy, and honoring the warriors who shaped the world, like this video, subscribe to Veteran Spot and share it with someone who respects real leadership. Stay sharp, stay proud, stay free.